Welcome to the Fence and Deck Mastery Podcast, where we discuss cutting-edge techniques, industry trends, and business insights to take your fence or deck company to the next level and dominate your competition. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Fence and Deck Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Danner, and also the founder of Fence and Deck Marketers, which is a marketing agency that works exclusively with fencing and decking businesses. And if you're following the show, you've kind of seen that I have a lot of different episodes. I do my best to bring on, really accomplished, contractors or vendors, all kinds of different people on here. And that's what I did today. So I have a really amazing guest that I'm excited to, ask a whole bunch of questions to. Today I have George Hesse from North County Deck and Patio in California. So George, appreciate you coming on the podcast. How you doing?
Oh, great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a little bit of a backstory. So earlier this year, I was invited to attend and speak, did like a classroom session at the TimberTech Summit, and that was in Arizona. But anyways, it was just an incredible experience and just a really great time. Met tons of amazing contractors.
Right.
Kind of to the point when I got there, I was like, wow, I was just kind of blown away by just how many people were there. But of course, with that many people, it's impossible to talk to everybody.
Right.
But TimberTech is only inviting the best contractors. So, I mean, some of the best contractors in the world are going to that event. So when I got back, since I wasn't able to meet everybody, I thought, let's get some podcast guests on there. I knew that was a very high level group there that could all, contribute something. So reached out to George to basically see if he wanted to come on, and he said, sure. So that's kind of how we came about this. And, we're just going to be learning all about his business because George has been in the outdoor living space for a really long time. And I guess to get started, George, if we can just, learn a little bit more about you, if you could just kind of introduce yourself, your story, your history in the decking, outdoor living industry, and, I guess things leading up to when you started the business.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So my name's George Hesse. I'm 61 years old. I'm going to own this business for 21 years. My running joke is I bought it from another contractor on April 1st. So 21 years ago. Had great success and some struggling years, of course. I refined what we do. I do operate different than a lot of contractors, is that I do actually have a warehouse that we stage from. The structure is more like a fencing company where my guys come here, leave here in my trucks, and we stage all our product from here. We have a painting area where we paint product. So there's I try to minimize my field labor, and that's been really helpful in the production. A lot of guys can't imagine having warehouse space. They think it's too much overhead, but it actually pays for itself. But yeah, I actually started as a steel fabricator when I got out of high school. Did that for 6 years, got tired of being burnt. And actually farmed for 3 years. I was a farm kid growing up. I had 5 acres of citrus I grew up on, and learned how to drive when I was 11 years old, and drive tractor and all that fun stuff. And then I got introduced to framing houses, and then I really like custom home building. And then again, the economy slipped, and I went to work for a church and school, building classrooms and doing maintenance, and got tired of changing light bulbs. And then I got introduced to this business. The guy that started was Larry Turpin, and he was a fence guy that built patio covers. Well, I'm a construction guy now, building decks and patio covers. And at one point, we decided to create 2 companies. It was Oceanside Fence and Patio, and then Oceanside Fence, and then North County Deck and Patio. And then he started having some health issues, and he'd been doing fencing and patios his whole life and wanted to do something different. So I had an opportunity to buy it from him, and I did. And that was in 2005. And then made it to 2008, and the economy crashed. And then I rebuilt it again, got it back up on its feet, and kept growing it. And now I'm, been in it Like you said, 21 years.
Okay. So when did so what year did you actually make that transition? I think I missed that there. Like when you went from the original to just being in North County.
The Oceanside Fence, that happened before I bought it. So what
Oh,
happened
okay.
was he divided the company into Oceanside Fence and North County Deck and Patio.
Got it.
Then I started sales training with him doing sales, and then we decided he was going to keep the Oceanside Fence piece, and I was buying the North County Deck and Patio piece. And so that's when I took it over, was April
Gotcha.
1st of 2005.
That is pretty funny. I was on April Fool's Day.
Yeah, dude. And it's just how it landed, and I keep that rolling.
Yeah. Well, that's
But
happy anniversary. I mean, we're
yeah, thanks.
recording on the 9th, so yeah,
Yeah,
just passed by.
right.
Okay. Is there anything that like really drew you to Dex outdoor living? Why decided that's what you wanted to make, dedicate your life to, that kind of thing?
Interesting part is it was the first time I really had the opportunity to make good money, because the way the structure of the profitability in those days, how he was bidding work. We had profit. We had some profit sharing, but we could piecework it, and I'm really efficient. So, and I was refining how we built. So, I just in layouts and going to really basic dimensioning. So, and it was also in my mind building it to be trainable. So it was pretty natural for me to go to the next place, and I always wanted to own my own company. So it worked in my favor how this played out. And then I've refined it more and more over the years and how we process our, from sales to actual product to putting the material in the air. Um, so yeah.
Gotcha. I'm just curious, how many years do you think it took before you figured, you actually felt like things were moving smooth, you knew what you were doing,
Mhm.
getting past the point where, every business owner, I guess, is just like clueless at the beginning.
Sure.
How long do you think that took?
Um, Gosh, great question, man. I think there's refining that happened all the way through it. I had an interesting thing happen to me in 2007. I had a company come to me and asked to buy my assets, and they wanted me primarily to understand how to sell to the public. They were a B2B, business to business type company. And it was an $80 million company, and I'm, at the time I was doing just under 2 million. And so as that process happened, I was one of those kids, I sucked at school just to, I mean, I
Yep.
joke, I got into construction because I, failed English, and then now I write every day. So it's this growth and concept and understanding, right? So what happened then is I got introduced to this corporate world, but I also then learned the whole structure of bidding properly. Where up to that point, if I had money in my bank account at the end of the month, I was ahead, right? Um,
Yep.
and a lot of guys operate that way. They just, it's cash flow, it's a cash based business. You may, get some debt, which I did early on, and when '08 happened, '09 was brutal for me, and everybody in California. Our construction industry pretty much shut down for a year, and it took a long time to recover from that. So I really ran my business cash based at that. From that point on, I didn't have credit because everything kind of fell apart. So then I build it all back. I go to work for this company, and I'm still running North County Deck and Patio, but they are now training me, and I'm thinking going to advance into this other world. And it didn't work out that way. They got into financial trouble and sold it back to me, the new company they had set up. And then I just kept North County rolling. I never shut my corporation down. So it's 2 years. I joke was my crash course in business development. But the blessing in it is I would have never done that on my own. And because of it, I really refined my bidding process. We created a spreadsheet of how to bid properly and build all the pieces with profitability And now I am, I mean, we're such a labor-based business that if your guys start, not producing, yeah, you're going to lose money. But I've really refined it to a point where we've been sitting at about a 10% profitability every year on an average for the last 5 years. So that's in my mind in this industry is pretty solid
Yeah.
to be at 10%. So
Gotcha. Okay. And that was, you said, how many years since you were kind of sitting there? Like 5? Is that what you said?
I'm going on 6 since that
Okay.
happened.
Nice.
But I think, yeah, the first, and I also learned I needed to bring other people in to manage parts of the business. So I primarily, and I brought a partner into Tom's his name, Tom McCain, and we've known each other since high school. Actually, he's a brilliant carpenter, understands construction better than most guys ever will, and so he runs the crews now. I have a great office manager. Her name's Kira, and she's um, keeps everything spinning. And then I primarily focus on the business side. I do sales and then product development, those pieces where what I want to market, what new products that are out there, or decking products or different lines of product, right? So I stay focused on that. So I'm update. My mind's clear on what's good to sell in our community, and also the styles, all those pieces that people are really interested in. That's my focus. So
Gotcha. Is I just had a random thought. Are you seeing I know in California with all the fires, I've
uh-huh.
heard that like the steel framing and like timber
Mm-hmm.
tech, is that big for you guys too, where you are?
Yeah, understand we were the first in the nation to really get pinned down with the whole fire code crap. And
Yeah.
it started really in '03, and when I didn't own this company, and in '07 it really was established. And what happened was San Diego County wrote the wildland urban interface, the whatever he talks WUI, that's the new term, right? um, they wrote it. And at the time I would go to TimberTech, Trex. I couldn't use any of their products because nothing was fire rated. And at the time, they didn't really care. We were one little pocket in the globe picture, and so there was not a lot of focus on it. Well, then now time, of course, has progressed, and there's been fires everywhere, and so now they're forced to go. Okay, we got to get fire rated products, and that's where TimberTech does have the Class A rated piece, because now it's even gotten worse in that there's called a zero zone, and you have to be a Class A product, or what they call like big timber I can use. So the aluminum's going to come into play. I have not put any of it in yet. Some of that goes to engineering and pulling permits, and that's the other nightmare for us in California. Is we've implemented so many different building things now, like they called it, the green building part, and what products you're using to save the planet. So there's all those pieces, but yeah, the fire rating piece is definitely a driver. I deal with it almost daily now with customers, and it's an interesting thing. If you want, the history of that is, go back in time, and words mean things, right? So we used to call it green space, right? Back 20 years ago, it was green space. So the way the developers built around here, and if you did a flyover, you'll see housing developments with natural terrain around it, right? And but yeah, green space pretty nominal, right? It's pretty, you can mow it, you can deal with it. It's green space, right? Well, then the word term changed to habitat. So what's a habitat? Something lives in it, you can't disturb it. So now we've got habitat all around houses that you can't disturb. So you can't cut brush anymore. You can't cut fire roads. You can't really trim it all back. And then we had fires. Well, now we have fire zones because you have habitat that you can't cut, so you have to protect those areas. So now we have fire zones over the top of that, which now how do you build in these? Basically, you're living in the wilderness. So it's starting to swing back a little bit, but at one point there was issues. I mean, one example was a property in Ramona, which is a rural area here, and the lady had the fire department telling her she had to cut her brush, but she had the county telling her that she couldn't because there was some bug or something lived in that area. So
Oh
she was
my
getting
gosh.
so she was getting fines for not cutting her brush, and then if she went to cut it, she was going to get fined. So she was caught in the middle, and she got a resolve. But that was that kind of crazy happening.
Yeah.
Um, Fortunately, now it's getting better, and it's hard because of the tragedy of like the Paradise Fire, and seeing mismanaged ridiculousness. We're fortunate down here; our firefighters know how to fight it, and they've been being trained since '07, because that fire really showed them a different way to fight fires. And to see that happen up north, dude, I was so angry that day when I was watching those houses burn, and then hearing there's no water in the fire hydrants and all. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
ridiculous. And
Yep.
the good old mismanagement of California here, it's been brutal, my friend. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so it
That's what
has, yeah.
sounds like some good California politics involved in there.
Dude. And it's, yeah, and it's, it's been going my whole life. I can't think, kind of look at it, it can't get any worse than it does. So you know
Well, Maryland's pretty similar. Not as extreme, but not a whole lot better. But
yeah, well, you guys
um,
get a lot of rain, so that helps you,
yeah.
where we don't. We are a desert. Southern California people, think it's global warming. Dude, we're a desert. We
Yeah.
import our water. So
Yeah.
when we get rain, it's a blessing. And
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just kind of curious about because I mean, I don't know where you are. So you're in Southern California, I'm sure.
yes, yeah.
There's are you in kind of going after those higher end areas where all the big money is? Are you trying to do those like bigger jobs? And what's the sweet spot for you guys?
Honestly, it's the smaller. They're a second
Smaller.
story deck. We
Mhm.
do a lot of their like a 8 foot projection, 12 foot, 16 foot wide. They're pretty much a lot of from the '90s on. Most of the development's been 2 story, and they put these little balconies on them. Well, back then they didn't build them well, and they're rotting off. So we go in. It's like a 4 day build for us, because we pre-paint everything and get build packages. So we go in and tear them out, put them back up in 4 or 5 days, and it's a reasonable cost because of how we do it, and that's been pretty much my bread and butter. I do a lot of aluminum patio covers. I use the Four Seasons product, and an insulated roof system for solid, and then lattice and all aluminum. Again, back to the fire stuff. It's becoming my primary business piece in that for a patio structure. I still do heavy timber wood, and we do some big heavy wood stuff. If you went on my website, you'd see some of that. We love building those. It's like, just a big roof structure, open beam, and be able to do staining and all that. But
Yeah.
yeah, but that's
Okay.
really our bread and butter. The big stuff, I feel like I always lose money on them. The labor just, it burns you. And because of my overhead, if I worked out of my truck and my office was my front seat, and my guys all drove to job sites, and you had all your material dropped on the job site, um, and I can minimize my labor, in the scope of field labor and what. But my guys are all pretty qualified. I pay them well, so we need to have production and flow. And those big jobs, man, they eat you alive. I mean, I
Yeah.
sometimes break even on them. I may make a little bit sometimes, but those smaller ones, the profitability is way better.
Yeah. I gotcha. Yeah, it's funny. I always hear, I would say, as companies get bigger, they tend to lean more to what you're saying, like get in, get
Hmm.
out. But there are
Yep.
also a lot of people that like the big ones still. So I guess
Oh yeah, they
probably the
do.
majority are kind of in the same boat as you, but some like the bigger ones too. But what do
Right.
you? So what would you say like is your differentiator? You've been around for a while. Like, what do you? I don't know. What do you say to your customer or your leads when you're trying to sell them? Like anything that's different about you? Anything that I guess you think you do especially well.
Um, Product choice that I drive them to particular products based on longevity and um, just that the companies are going to be around. So for warranty issues, I'm not going to have issues with that. I always tell them I don't like callbacks unless you call me to build something else for you. And that's one of my mantras. And because you lose money if I come back to fix something,
Yeah.
that's out of my pocket. So
Yep.
we really want to produce well and finish well, and that's been a major part of how I market our company. I think, and I go through our process of how we um, put their project together. So they have a real clear picture going in, and then as the email streams start or the conversations start, can always refer back to our conversations and even what we talk about in the proposal. My proposals aren't super wordy. I'm real concise in what we give them, so there's not a lot of gray area. But then also the reverse of that is we're working on it all the time to make sure we have all the information, because if we create a gray area, it bites me. It ends up costing money because, well, for instance, if I didn't specify a particular material properly, and then they were expecting one thing. Now we're working through negotiating that, and it just leaves a bad taste in their mouth. So really want everything refined well before we start the project.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, you were talking about like, well, you're talking about this. Do you do like 3D designs? Are you giving them renderings
We
of projects?
We do renderings. We don't do 3D. Just like a top view down and then description. So my proposals have like materials, specifications, and check boxes. So when you go through, like for instance, if it's a wood structure, I have is a Douglas fir, pressure treated, smooth, resawn, and there's an X box, and I go through all those, and then down below it's the description of what we're doing, but everything is specified. What size header I'm using, what size joist, all those pieces are up in a format, and then when I'm out in the field, when I initially look at the job, I talk through it and I repeat back to them when I get done with what they want initially. And then, of course, it's all in the emails too when we send it out. I try to bid the job the next day that I look at, especially our bread and butter stuff. So I'm usually ahead of my competitors by a week. And that has a lot to do with my office manager, um, her and I working together and building those proposals quickly to get them out. But the efficiency piece is the biggest thing for me, and just um, there is an interesting dynamic where I live, and it was actually joked about at a Trex event and even at the Timber Tech event. We get along. My competitors and we talk to each other. It's not this like he's my enemy because he's bidding against me. Because everyone has their niche, right? Guys like certain things over others. And one of my competitors, he was sending me his aluminum covers because he didn't want to do them anymore. Um, I sent him a deck project that I was really having a conflict with how this guy was wanting to do his job, and this other contractor worked it out with him, and him and I talk probably at least every couple of weeks. There's a couple other ones. There's younger ones that we all kind of help. Hey, how you doing? You surviving? What's going on? And so we are a different dynamic, and I even had executive one of the companies kind of was dumbfounded that we were all sitting at the same table hanging out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't get why. I mean, I'm the same way. Like, it doesn't make any sense not to be that way, especially if,
Right.
like, let's be serious. Like, they're going to get quotes, you're going to get quotes.
Yep.
And if you can share information and kind of help each other out, like, there's going to be enough, as long as you're in a good area. Cause, if you're,
Yeah. It,
if you're in a bad area,
yeah,
then you might
we
be a bit
are. I mean, I
different.
think in concentration of decks here and patio structures, I mean, we are the outside living capital of the world, in my opinion. There, we live outside. People live outside here 90% of the year,
Yeah.
and we're so wimpy, dude. It's it rain, it drizzles, and we're inside. I mean, it's just comical. So, um, the the lifestyle here is outside living. So anything related to that, and that's back to I think one of your first questions. Why did I get involved in this? Is for one thing, we're outside. I'm not in someone's house remodeling a bathroom and
Yeah.
figuring out what tile and color and cabinets and blah blah blah, or house remodels. Or now you've damaged something, you're fixing stuff. The delay in product, depending on so many other people. Well, I can do everything in house as a B licensed contractor in the state of California. We can frame it all. We can do minor electrical, all those the pieces that we do. And I'm outside. My guys don't go in your house. You plug into a socket and that's it. So there's no. I mean, we even put porta potties on the jobs so they don't use the residence bathroom, which a lot of guys want to do or have to leave to go to the bathroom. It's that efficiency piece again too, but it's
Yeah.
outside living, man. So but I've stayed focused on building boxes, if you think of it that way, right?
Yeah.
We build boxes. We don't build any crazy structures, or occasionally something kind of a trick deck, whatever. But a patio cover structure and a deck structure are really similar, with some variables, right? So that's why I've stayed there. I can train it, and I've got a couple of guys now that started with me that were green, man, couldn't barely knew what a hammer was, and both are foremen now. So, and young, and really picked it up and really love the deck and patio business, and that's really my focus, is try to develop the future, is those kind of guys that want to do this kind of outside living piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned well, we were talking about the sales stuff earlier, and
Uh-huh.
but I made a note of something you were saying, like
Uh-huh.
getting those proposals out quicker, because that is unbelievably common with every contractor everywhere, and
Right.
just taking forever. Like,
Yeah.
just waiting, and also not getting it to when you say is extremely frustrating, which I've seen too.
Right.
It's like, if you're going to
Right.
say it's going to
Yeah.
be by Wednesday and I'm texting you back Thursday and Friday asking for an update, like that can't be good for your chances overall.
Correct.
Especially if you have a competitor that's on it, like if you're competing
Right.
against you and somebody's doing that, it's like, obviously there's going to be so much, like, you guys are going to look so much better in every way. Just,
Absolutely.
they're going to assume you're going to do a better job. And if you can't get the estimate on time, how are you going to get the project out on time?
Right.
It's there's going to, I guess you just got to be careful with all those assumptions, and, just the whole sales process in general you're talking about. Is there anything else, like, that you would kind of like to highlight how you go about the sale, and anything that seems to work pretty well? I guess tips, tricks, anything.
Sure. I think presentation is huge. When you walk up to the door, first impression is always huge. Um, for me, because for the guys out there that are listening to this, that are rolling up to a house, and you just rolled off a job and you may climbed out of a ditch because you were digging footings, go change your pants, man, and put on a clean
Yeah.
shirt. It's an impression, and if a lot of guys think, oh yeah, it shows I work hard and I'm working and I'm in the field. Well, but you may not smell good, and that's an impression. And people, not that they're glad you're a hard worker, and that you're showing that, but you're also going into their home, or you're going into their yard, and you're entering their property, and you got to honor that. I think presentation is always huge. I've won jobs because of walking up to the door prepared, carrying I used to carry a satchel. I carry a clipboard, but I give a lot of information, and my head knowledge is as good as anybody out there, I believe. So in my product lines that I sell. So, but I had a guy one time, I built this patio cover for him. In those days, we would sit down and finish the contracts. And he actually goes, George, I hired you at the door. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, you walked up, you're clean, you had a tape measure on your hip, you had a clipboard, you had a briefcase, and you had pencils and pens in your pocket. You were ready to go. I had one guy put a cigarette out in my planter box when he walked up and cut off jeans, and he looked like he just rolled out from under a truck. Another guy asked to borrow a tape measure. So, those types of things, you wouldn't think that's a big deal. Well, it is. It's presentation. Are you a professional, or are you, a builder, a guy that just wants to build stuff? So yeah, presentation's everything. Know your products, know what you're selling. Don't just hand them brochures and go, yeah, here's your decking choices. Here's, I take them through my brochures and I point out the decking products I will sell you. I also point out ones and I mark them off that I won't sell you. And all the suppliers out there are growling right now, but I I want to sell you something that's going to have longevity and no callbacks, and that's a major deal for me. But again, it's presentation, communication. You communicate with people at their level, and don't overspeak them. It's the old used car salesman theory. I'm a relationship salesman. I own this product for 10 years. If something goes wrong, I don't, you don't not communicate to someone. You have to take care of it. The state of California mandates it. So I always look at everything as I'm building it for my family or for a close friend, and I present myself that way. There's things that I've learned to do over the years of you compliment something that's important to somebody.
Yeah.
I had a cool thing happen. This lady had a painting hanging on her wall that was hung as a triangle, instead of square. It was, the point was, it makes sense. It was still a square, but the painting was done. It was painted as a diamond, right? So I saw it on the wall and I go, wow, that's really cool how you did that. And she goes, why, thank you. My mother painted that way. And it really means a lot to me. Well, right then I like took it to a place of personal, but not crazy, right? And it's those types of things. Be aware of your surroundings, and treat people how they want to be treated. And I've again been doing it 20 years, but I had sales training. I know back in the day, and I don't know if he's still around. I haven't looked out, but it was called Tom Hopkins, and it was they did a lot for realtors, but it was fencing and just consumer driven sales training. And I encourage guys out there, get sales training, man. Don't think you can shoot from the hip every time and have good sales. I tried that when I first got into this, and I failed miserably. And I really had to establish my sales skills and really continue to share the same information with each customer. It's because what you don't realize is they've never heard you before. Even though you've heard yourself 100 times or 1,000 times, they've never heard you. So as you present, you should refine what you say, because they're going to receive it well. If you're always stumbling around and trying to get your words out, you're going to fail. And again, it builds confidence in them that you're a competent contractor that's going to take good care of them. And then, yeah, it goes back to getting the bids out. And I run into it at times. I can't get them all out, but then I'll send an email. Or if they beat me to it and they send an email, hey, when do I expect this? I will respond. I don't blow it off. So that's huge. And I've sold jobs because of that, that I didn't blow them off. So
yeah. And it sounds, you said you have ad marketing, or sorry, not marketing, office admin that helps with those quotes and some of that stuff too, like that that piece right there, I think everybody needs to have something like that
Oh,
because you just get worn down. I mean, I was guilty of this early on too. Like, I just didn't want to make all these follow ups when I'm already exhausted and dealing with a million things. But if you
sure.
have someone that can, help you with follow ups and do calls and probably do it better, I think everybody can find someone better than them at that kind of stuff. It just is such a relief, and it'll end up
Right.
easily being worth it, and paying for itself because
Oh, it does.
you were going to do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And another thing, it's a check in your system, right? So if I bid a job and I'm looking at it, and then I have some variables in how I bid, but I should see like one of the variables is I'm looking for in a square footage price point. I don't lock it at a point like some guys bid at 120 and or $100 a square, or $80, whatever. And I don't do that. I have a variable that I'm looking at. I also am looking at profitability percentage. So there's some things I look at. So Kira will build a proposal and put all the information in because she types 100 times faster than me. So she puts all the data in, all the information, and then I go through it and check everything. And then I look at our bid sheets and I verify the labor days and add days, take days away based on knowledge, right? But it cleans it up in that I'm not building every piece. I'm not putting the customer's information in. That's all tedious work, right?
Yep.
So AI is going to help with that. Obviously, you can speak it and it's going to print it, um, but to have another person basically putting the data in, at least from this way it works for us and it works well. She builds it. I go in and just check everything and clean it up, and then and verify the numbers, and then I send it out. So the customer gets it from me. They're not getting it from an office. One of the things I have learned too, and partly because I don't like it happen, is meet with a salesman. He comes and sells me a product, and then I never hear from him again. Um, Now, I do tell my customers I have a project manager. I have, you'll meet with my foreman. If there is ever an issue, you can always come back to me. And it does happen occasionally. Generally, not. We're pretty well oiled, so I have that. But they can get to me anytime, and I'll get. The other thing I've learned is I don't give my cell phone out. If you want to get me, you can email me or you can go through my office. Um, Certain customers, and they're especially repeat customers, I will give them my cell phone, but I've learned not to do that because you get the text message at 8 o'clock at night or whatever, and
Yeah.
I go, brother, and we don't, you know, it's not like we rebuild your bathroom and your toilet's flooding now that you need emergency services.
Right.
We're not like that. Everything we do is really just to enhance your lifestyle. So it's not, life threatening or, life ending if we don't answer the phone and can't deal with it the next day.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah. Yeah. Not like the heat's not working or the water's off.
yeah, yeah, right. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be 30 below.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Um,
that's the gist of that piece, right?
yeah. I'm curious about this too. Like in your process, how often do you follow up with people? Like if they maybe I don't know, might differ like a new lead versus one
Hmm.
they gave an estimate to, like how often you reach back out to them or how many times,
It's
I guess.
yeah, I don't it matter. That's a great question because I don't do it on every one of them. I do it on the ones that I want,
Yeah.
really want, that I feel I can. We met all the criteria. Numbers is always an issue. People get sticker shocked, but um, most of the time, if I really want it, I'll actually go after it. Um, when I send the proposal out, I'll follow up with a phone call. So then if it and I it's it the conversation is they usually it goes to voicemail, but I leave a message that I just say a proposal. If you don't see it, respond back to us, and we'll resend it. Check your junk. Sometimes it goes there, that kind of thing, just to get that I am consciously going after wanting to work for them. Um, Other ones I send with the email. If I don't hear from them in a day or two, we'll follow up. I've been fortunate enough. I haven't had to be that hungry where I'm really pursuing them. We've been booking out of average about 8 weeks, and during the summer, 12 into 12 weeks. Um, and so then it goes down to what jobs I want and how fussy the customer is, because I actually rate them just as much as they're rating me. So, but I'm fortunate. I've been doing it 21 years, and I tell them that. I mean, I'm here to make sure I want to work for you too, but I do it in a nice way, and they appreciate that. It's because, and I tell them, I've had some people I've walked in and just go, oh, no, you're going to be a nightmare, and
Yeah.
I'll tell them, you're the kind of person I'd love to work for, and
You're going to be a nightmare.
yeah, I tell you, you're gonna suck. I'm leaving. So, but yeah, I've had those where I walk in and the lady is just off the charts, man, and you just go, no, this is red flag, red flag, red
Yep.
flag, no. And I sent them a nice email saying, chosen not to bid your product, and then move on. I mean, I typically look at 3 jobs a day, 4 days a week, is what we're set up for. I spend an hour with each customer. I go through my process with them. But again, I've been repeating myself for 20 years. It's natural. And I encourage you guys out there, get how you want to present yourself down, and repeat it every day, and actually look in the mirror and do it, and be really present yourself well.
Yeah. What about during the actual process? Is there anything you're doing to manage expectations, like during the build or giving updates, anything like that?
Um, that's where Tom gets into play. We have a foreman and his helper on every job. They're introduced as their foreman. If there is any fault, issues, they refer back to Tom most of the time. And then Kira is also in those conversations as she helps with that piece. I'm typically not engaged, but like next week, I'm meeting with a customer because we got to dial in some things that they wanted to add, and so we need to work through that because it's other costs, and that's my piece. When money starts being part of the picture again, then I get back engaged. But if it's not, I typically don't need to because Tom knows what he's doing.
Yeah. And is that, I mean, I think you already said it, the
Hmm.
partnerships worked out really well. I mean, anything you've kind of learned from that? Because, I've heard horror stories about that. It always
Sure.
has worried me, back to my dad telling me horror stories about it. So I've always been
I
very hesitant, but
sure.
think you could shed light on that?
I think part of it is you got to be willing to give up pieces of it and not be a micromanager.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to maybe not hit your expectations to the level that you want. Generally, what has happened is even Tom's more crazy about it than I have been, but any good contractor has a really good eye and knows good quality and not. And that's I'm a super visual person, so is he. So that helps. That we've had conflict, of course. It's expectations, like anything else. And it's a marriage, man. And if you're not communicating well, you're gonna have conflict. And I think we do a pretty good job of communicating every day. He knows his piece, I know mine, and we flow. And but if you're really prideful and it's all about you, man, don't have a partner.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You're gonna be in conflict all the time. Your stress levels are gonna be ridiculous, and it's part of why I brought. And when I went through that process of when that other company owned my assets for those 2 years, I learned at that point I couldn't do it all still. It was killing me. I mean, you never stop working. Um, and your brain never shuts down at night. You're worrying about the jobs that are running. You're worrying about bids that you're trying to get out. You're never done. And I even had to learn how to separate. I ended up reading most of the classics during those times, so I get my brain to shift from work to something else, and so I could sleep. And so what has happened in this process is I don't stress about every job every day like I used to. I get engaged in them if there's something happening on a job, but Tom handles that. So I'm focused on selling work and keeping us, because I am the only salesman. I've tried to hire other salesmen and haven't had great success with that. And I like doing it. I think it's probably the biggest driver. So if I was more of a builder, didn't like sales, then I would have more salesmen and I'd be doing what Tom does.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also knew, I mean, I'm like I said, I'll be 62 in June, and I knew in my 30s, late 30s, and then early 40s, man, you can't do this kind of work forever. There is a transition that's going to happen.
Yeah.
To be able to physically build like that every day and push wood in the air and all this pieces. So I knew that's why I got involved with this company too, because I saw the potential for me to be running the company more than just builder every day. And as it transitioned and I bought it, there's a natural piece. But um, I still love to build. I'm a carpenter. I weld. I do all kinds of stuff. I build stuff, everything in my own home. I've done every model in my kitchen. I've done. I am a builder, um, and it keeps my skill level up. But when it comes to the pieces of running this company, you got to relinquish, and that's what helped me. I put out a lot of money that's theoretically mine to make sure that I don't have to work 16 hours a day. I typically work 8 and maybe 10, but I I don't have to do. And some days I work 6. I mean, honestly, just because I've hired people that I trust, and they're doing a great job for me.
Yeah. Well, that's a dream. I mean, not breaking your back and working 16-hour days, getting to a
All right,
place like you're
right,
at. So,
yeah,
well, I got to ask, since marketing's my thing. What are you guys doing
cool.
to generate leads? Get consistent business.
Yeah, website's been a major piece of it forever. Years ago, I used to use Service Magic and Angie's List and some of those. I've fallen away from those. It's kind of became really silly and ridiculous, and um, I don't use that format anymore. I mean, um, primarily it's been our website. Also, TimberTech has and Trex has lead generators. We get some business from that. And then lately, again, 21 years in business, I get a lot of referral business and repeat business. So I'd say 60% of my business is website driven. And then the 10%, maybe 15 is generated from like TimberTech and Trex. And then get a little bit from Four Seasons. They even refer for me, probably 5% of that. And then everything else is referral.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. And is there anything, I guess, before we kind of close out here, is there anything you'd like to add to what we've been talking about? Anything you think would be good to know? Maybe it's a contractor that's just starting out, like you said, doing 16-hour
Mm-hmm.
days, things like that. Anything
Mm-hmm.
that you'd like to share that might be helpful to them?
I would say, yeah, set times for everything. Don't swing from the hip every day. And what I mean by that is you've got jobs to run. You got to go get them started, get building. If you're building physically yourself, um, focus on that. Don't answer your phone every time it rings. Let the voicemail do its thing, text message, and get back to people, and then set your afternoon time for that type of thing. When you're going to go look at jobs, I would, again, for me at work, that I'd work in the morning. I would go home, clean up, change my clothes, basically change hats, and go do my sales calls. And I'd work, 5 to 7 o'clock at night doing sales calls. As a small contractor, if you're going to be productive, you don't drop in the middle of the day and go do your sales calls. People are usually home in the evening, and you generally want the husband and wife to be there. So you want to have that kind of level of work. If you can go 4 days hard and then do a sales day, that would be another way I would run a small company. If you're working out of your truck, um, I I can always look into separating your business from your where you live. even though guys use it as write-offs and there's a lot of tax benefits to working out of your house, but you never get separation. And I get separation. I drive to an office. I this is where I work. When I drive in, get in my truck, I'm in sales mode, and I go home, I'm home mode. I've isolated those pieces, and it's helped me stay sane. So I just encourage you to lock the times and don't just keep trying to keep everything rolling. What all you end up doing is putting out fires, and no one's going to be happy with you, and it'll burn you out. And that's not what we need for the next generation of contractors. We need you guys to, want to do this, to love doing it, but you got to manage your time well. It's super important.
Yeah. And a great opportunity with AI. They're not gonna, no, some people might
Yeah.
say they will, but yeah, I don't see deck builders being
No.
replaced with robots,
Nope. Nope. No, the trades. I mean, it's an interesting thing. I have a church I go to, and one of the kids came up to me the other day and knew I'm a contractor, and he's been told by his mom's in real estate, his dad's a pastor, and the pastor, and they're telling him, trades, he sucks at school. He kind of reminds me of me, and he wants to learn. So I'm, going to start teaching him just basic carpentry skills, because he wants to learn. And if I, this summer, if it picks up, I'll bring him in here and he can paint wood and get familiar with product. And if it's a trade he likes, great. But the trades we need tradesmen. I
Yep.
mean, this whole idea that everyone can play video games and fly drones is, absurd. And now they're seeing it. The businesses are dying because of AI, and you don't need someone, web designer to the level anymore. There's other ways to do it, right? So those jobs that were like the hot jobs are no longer, and now they're talking. I mean, a plumber making 120 an hour starting. I mean, come on, man, that's amazing money, for a kid that could barely write his name on the page every time.
Yeah. Oh my
So
God.
right, so yeah, I think, yeah, to develop the next generation is huge, and we've been failing it in the public school system here. So but fortunately, I think it is shifting, and guys are like, I like working with my hands, and the automotive industry is all of it. And, cars, you need to have a computer degree almost to work on them now. So, because you got everything plugs in, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah, so I would, yeah, the hands-on piece is going to be huge. And you can, I have, well, you have 11 employees, and guys, I have one that now, one of the guys I was telling you about, he's looking to buy a condo. And, he was a kid that walked in here, and he barely could get his name out without, stammering. And now he's running a crew, and he's confident, and he's doing a great job, and he's a good carpenter. So the, the ability, the skill piece, and that was for me too. I'm really good with my hands. I'm a good carpenter, and I can build anything. And so, but my focus is to build a business, and to, how many people can say they built a business that they've created 11 jobs that are actually, living wage-esque jobs? Not a lot, man. So I'm really proud of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Taking care of them the right way too. Like
Yes, sir.
that's a big source of pride for me. Well, for one, a big thing was never laying anybody off,
Right.
because of that. Of course, people have gotten fired, but that, and I think if you're gonna have a company that's gonna be successful, you better be showing that, doing whatever you can to make it happen, and not getting stagnant. If you kind of built a business just to make some good money and you want to sit back and do nothing, like, it's pretty much a guarantee, unless you can have a great team that's helping you and all that stuff. But for most
Right.
people, eventually things start to fall apart, and then you're kind
Right.
of back in that. But it's when people are surprised by that, I'm like, why would they be? Like, why would somebody want to spend at least a third of
Right.
their life with a company that has no like future potential, where they can't like get to the next level or make more money or whatever?
Right.
And luckily, we were talking about like different podcasts. Like I'm obsessed with watching those, and I've learned just so much in terms of that, and
Right.
how to build a culture and things like that. And because of it, we don't really have anybody leave, but it's
Right.
also a pride factor too. Like if you can do well and get more clients and then give raises when they're not expecting them, like I always try to do that, go out of my way to pay more if we're making more money. Like everyone benefits from it. So I
Right.
think there's just so many bad ways to do business, and people that are complaining about all these little things. It's probably a good chance you got to look in the mirror to see what's going on that's
You do.
causing all
Right.
these problems. Um,
Yep. Exactly.
but anyways, George, I don't want to take up too much of your time. So I appreciate you coming on here. I think everybody
Well,
listening got a lot of really good information. I liked all the sales stuff that we covered, and I know there's a lot of things in there that I've never heard before. So, you know, I hope everyone got,
well,
a lot of value from this, and enjoyed listening to George talk. And just appreciate you coming on the podcast. But
no, it's my pleasure, man. This was really fun for me. It's first time I've ever done this, and
oh,
I really
cool.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you asked great questions and got my brain to go to places I didn't think I was going to go. So cool, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it was great.
Yeah.
I like the, like we were saying in the beginning, just kind of go in different directions. That's usually fun. And there's always just tons of value everybody has. It's hard to
Right.
think of on the spot, like exactly what, we were saying, like, what do we want to discuss? And it's kind of hard,
Hmm.
but all it takes is a couple stories to bring up a million other
Right.
things that you kind of forgot about. But
Right.
anyways, George, again, appreciate you coming on here and kind of going forward with the Fence Deck Mastery podcast. We're
Thanks.
back on schedule, and going to keep bringing on exciting new guests and
Cool.
share different insights like that. So yeah, go ahead, George.
But no, yeah, again, thanks, Alex. This was awesome, brother. Man.
Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely, man.
love meeting you. And maybe I'll see you again at one of the events. That'd be cool.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Hopefully at the Timber Tech one next year.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can get invited back because that was
All
a lot
right.
of fun.
It was
But
fun.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's basically it. If you have any questions about marketing, of course, reach out. And I know we're
Sure.
kind of getting to the busy season where everyone's doing pretty well. But if you're not getting the leads that you want, the quality, the quantity, anything like that, feel free to reach out. If you want us to look at anything you have online, your website, your Google listing, all that stuff, can give you an audit and kind of break that down for you. And
All right, cool.
yep, and we'll kind of go forward from there. But yeah,
Sure.
again, George, appreciate you coming on the podcast, and
Sure.
we'll be talking soon.
All right, very good. Thanks, man.
Yep.